I've never watched it, me personally, but most of the people I know that consider themselves black, they into it. And I can see why. Because I'm into movies like that. We all are, because that's reminiscent to the energy that we was lost, like was wiped from us. However it happened. And now that we're waking up to it again, we're starting to realize, well, wait a minute, if the country is 243 years old and they've been only fighting for 222 years straight, then when was the time of peace? When did that ever happen? Let's get into that. Columbus acquired the natives, no doubt, the sign language of the Lucayas, and whence the enemy warred upon the Lucayas, stealing their women, plundering, committing man-eating atrocities. The Lucayas indicated directions to West Florida and to the south. So again, we're showing that people that was down there was up here. So where was the imported people from Africa? Oh, these is all of the ones he killed, right? The first people called the Indians were those who occupied the Greater Antilles, Cuba, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Jamaica. Who lives in those places today? You see what I'm saying? Like, what are they talking about? So the Arawaks were some Mexican-looking people that he just got rid of? All of that's lies, man. We are where we always was at. The only people that's been moved is the people that was forced to move. We started being forced to move when they started to take over and coup d'etat everything after the cataclysm. And they created historical accounts based on them destroying and taking over everything. And then imagine living in the dominions of what we call Louisiana or whatever, living there. And then one day you hear that, you know, this part of the whole spot is now sold. And you got to go to the flag raising. And then the next morning you see these white guys or these people there with guns. And now you got to sign papers and say now you're conscripted as a Negro or something. That's why Moors was fighting against all that. Not everybody was with that. Not everybody was having that. You're talking to kings. You're talking to kings and queens. Like, that's what we're forgetting. We keep looking to Africa. There was kings and queens right here not having it. Black Hawk. Read about the Black Hawk Wars. Read about the Chickamauga Wars. These Moors was not having it, man. Whole towns would just wake up, just disappear. Right? It was years before white people could just be in colonies and feel like they was okay. They was just winding up, just gone. Read about the town in Roanoke. That's real. Croatan and all that. That's real. Those is old Moors. Our ancestors getting rid of these people, the mound walkers. Read about that stuff. We keep trying to battle with information. Like, read about the False Face Society. Read about the mound walkers. This is the stuff that the Anasazi and the Apache and the Comanche and them was invoking on these white people, man. Where do you think the Sicilians get the idea of cutting a horse head and leaving it in the bed with you? It was worse than that. We are the first round. You know what I'm saying? We was the guys here and got it together for everybody to be able to live for real. That's why we at the bottom now. And again, everybody's participating in it, whether we like it or not. That's why I said we're all born in sin. But subrogation is the act of one party claiming the legal rights of another that it has reimbursed for the losses. Subrogation offers in property Casualty insurance, when a company pays off one of its insured for damages, then makes its own claim against the others who have made the caused loss, insured the loss, or contributed to it. Subrogation is the assumption by a third party, such as a secondary creditor or insurance company, of another party's legal right to collect the debt or damages. It is a legal doctrine whereby one person is entitled to enforce the subsisting or revived rights of another for one's own benefit. Understand? The next one. Think about that more. Think about how come Moors ain't talking about this. We keep talking about leaning people, keep talking about right to travel, we keep talking about all this other stuff. When the basic aspect of what's going on is everybody is trying to put you and I under a form of law that's contrary to the Sherifian law, which translates in American jurisprudence to the Republican form of government, i.e., the law that was set down by the several states, and the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution of 1787, and the Treaty of Peace and Friendship of 1787. All four of those form the compact of the fourfold republic, of which I'm guaranteed that and protected from that. So the only right I have is the right of subrogation, because I have to do it on behalf of the estate or trust that was used to establish this fraud to begin with. And what was that? What was that? See, I'm talking about jurisprudence now. I'm not talking about legality. We're talking about what's right. Jurisprudence deals with what's right. Natural equity looks at that which should have been done as done. So when I put you on notice that this is my position and this is the position I'm taking, so long as I, again, have not violated my own law, I'm protected by yours to follow through with what I told you. So if you violate that, then you automatically fall in default because you're going against the initial spirit of what I sent it to you to do. And in legalese, that's referred to as UCC 1-308. It makes sense when you let it. That's why they don't want you to sign that. Because that shit just came, that whole process just came out. That's just another form of the revised Book of 100. Look that up. Ordained by George. It was basically a Christian Waqif established in the name of George for them to be able to do business like Moors as Christians. That's why the definition of Moor in the Black's Law Dictionary says that the Moors are the bailiffs of the hundreds. 100 mean corporation. That's why they do a Fortune 500. Because these are all the corporations that descended from the original corporation, which was the Dutch East India Company. That they all still got equity and shares in. That still exists today under many different names. But niggas is talking about the Rothschilds and this one and that one. You understand, for the past time you've been alive, that this has been the systems that your own people been flipping on you? How many times you've been in a situation when you've had to fight to establish yourself? Guess what that is? Darwinism. How many times you was in church and feeling compelled, or temple or mosque or whatever, to do something, and you didn't feel right about it but had to do it because the family did? That's oligarchism. How many times you've been in a situation where somebody's talking to you about politics and you have a separate opinion, and then everybody jump on you and tell you that you crazy, you just don't want to vote, want to be a part of nothing? That's democratic socialism. How many times you've been in a situation where you wanted to do something nice for yourself or pay your rent, whatever, and ain't had no money? That's communism. Excuse me, that's capitalism. How many times you've been in a situation you've been pressured about getting money to do situations, whatever? Guess what? That's communism. See what I'm saying? And when you put all of that together, and a white face or a black face or Asian face or African face or a Malaysian face or Arab face is all white supremacy. You just think it's different because they tell you it's different. It ain't. And they ain't gonna stop doing that. They're not gonna stop doing this. This is not gonna stop. And that's why black folk is doomed to fall into whatever system they fall into, because again, they don't realize that they relying on the kindness of strangers, and these are the people that turn them into animals. We ran the whole world basically up until the 1800s, late 1800s, and all of that, into the 1900s, which was the heyday for them. That's why they call it the Roaring Twenties. The Roaring Twenties. That's where they could just get it in. They was burning up everything, taking over everything, locking up everybody. Think about it. How is it you go from this? You going from the slavery, as they say, then to Jim Crow, then from Jim Crow to segregation, then from segregation to the prison, the prison pipeline. It's like, yo, but all of that comes with the 14th Amendment. Of which you're assumed to be that. But like the prophet said, we didn't need that to come into the union because we was already in it. The African Barbary being bounded in this way in the North and the West, and our American Barbary from the South and the East. This is Thomas Jefferson. But there are no two spaces of the surface of the globe that the two extent of the examination of the map will verify about that what state, there it is again, which the present so made distinctive features of resemblance, meaning the people who was originally there. Whether we consider the parallels of latitude in which they lie, or the nature of their boundaries or productions, and their peculiar domestic institution which sought to shelter in both, I introduce these comparisons in order to bring home to your minds as near as possible the precise position and character of the territory which was the seat of evil I'm about to describe. It might be worthy to inquire why any Christian slavery, banished at last from Europe, because only Christians enslaved was in Europe was the white people, banished from also from that part of the hemisphere which corresponds to the latitude of Europe, should have entrenched itself in both latitudes, both hemispheres, between the same parallels of latitude, so that Virginia, Carolina, and Mississippi and Texas should be the American complement to Morocco, Algiers, Tripoli, and Tunis. But they tell you that this ain't Morocco. Well, let's add on to that to verify that, because this point just deads everything. Where again it says, adds on to what he's saying. He's saying all of these areas he spoke about is right here. That's everything west of this. Coming from Morocco, which would be all the way over here, coming all the way down to this, represents Barbary. And what does it say? It says, thence beyond the Bravo begin and the natural boundaries between the Anglo-Saxon and the Mauritanian races. Didn't he just spoke about the boundaries? Showing that there was a Moorish presence, ancient Moorish, meaning Mauritanian, and the Moorish peoples and their Indian descendants. But the people just want to claim the latter, who had the least control over the land, due to them being exiled from Siberia, who came over again here in the 13th century. Same made up. This is the history that they've been denying us for the past, I would say, 1,000 years, really. We don't even know that we have different, that we just think like you either get had, mad, sad, happy, glad, frustrated. These are emotions, but there's way more emotions than that. We have 23 different emotions, and probably more, that correspond to different aspects of things we've experienced in our life, but we think it's something else.